The rain came down in sheets across Seattle's waterfront, drumming against the cathedral's stained glass windows. Rosemary Pierce stood in the bride's room, staring at her reflection through the fog her breath made on the mirror. The wedding dress felt like armor, layers of ivory silk and French lace that someone else had chosen, someone else had paid for, someone else would remove. She was 28 years old, and this was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. The arrangement 3 months ago, her Uncle Warren had sat her down in his study, the same room where he'd delivered punishments throughout her childhood. Her parents had died when she was 9, leaving her in his care. He'd taken their insurance money, their house, everything. And he'd made sure she understood the debt she owed him. "The Pierce name is worthless now," Warren had said, swirling his whiskey. "But the Ashford family needs connections to the medical community. Theodore Ashford needs a wife who understands discretion. You need a way out of that pathetic teaching job. Everyone wins." Rosemary hadn't asked what she was supposed to win. She already knew the answer: escape. Even if it meant trading one cage for another, walking toward a stranger. The music started, that traditional march that had played at thousands of weddings before hers. Rosemary took a breath and stepped into the cathedral. Through the veil, she could see him waiting at the altar. Theodore Ashford was tall, with dark blonde hair that fell just slightly over his forehead. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than she'd made in a year of teaching. His hands were clasped in front of him, and his expression was carefully neutral. She'd met him exactly twice before today, both times with lawyers present, going over the terms of their arrangement. She reached the altar. He offered his hand, and she took it. His palm was warm, steady. The minister spoke words about love and commitment that rang hollow in the vast space. When it came time for vows, they repeated the traditional lines, voices barely above a whisper. The kiss was brief, formal, his lips barely brushing the corner of her mouth. "Mrs. Ashford," he said quietly as they turned to face the small gathering of business associates and distant relatives. The name felt strange. Foreign. The silent drive. The drive to Ashford Manor took 40 minutes, winding through Seattle's hills until they reached an estate overlooking Puget Sound. Rosemary kept her eyes on the rain-streaked window, watching the city lights blur into darkness. "Are you cold?" Theo asked. It was the first thing he'd said since they'd entered the car. "I'm fine. There's a blanket in the compartment beside you." She glanced at him. In the dim light of the car, he looked tired, the careful composure from the ceremony starting to crack around the edges. "Thank you," she said, pulling out the soft wool blanket. They didn't speak again until they arrived at a house too large for two. Ashford Manor was beautiful in a way that felt lonely. 3 stories of stone and glass, surrounded by gardens that probably looked stunning in daylight. Inside, everything was clean lines and expensive furniture, the kind of place that felt more like a museum than a home. A woman in her 60s greeted them. "Mr. Ashford, Mrs. Ashford. Welcome home. I'm Patricia, the head of household staff." "Patricia will help you get settled," Theo said. "Your room is ready." "My room?" Rosemary asked. "I thought you'd prefer your own space." His eyes met hers, and she saw something there she hadn't expected: understanding. "The East Wing has been prepared for you. My quarters are in the West Wing." Relief flooded through her, so intense she felt dizzied. At a room of her own. Patricia led her up the curved staircase to a suite that was larger than the entire apartment she'd shared with 2 other teachers. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the sound. A sitting area with a fireplace. A bathroom with a clawfoot tub. And a bed that could fit 4 people comfortably. "Mr. Ashford had us stock the closet with clothes in your size," Patricia said, opening the walk-in closet to reveal racks of dresses, casual wear, everything she might need. "If anything doesn't fit or isn't to your taste, just let me know. We'll exchange it." "This is too much," Rosemary whispered. Patricia smiled gently. "Mr. Ashford was very specific about making sure you felt comfortable here. There's a call button by the bed if you need anything. Breakfast is at 8, but if you prefer to eat in your room, that's perfectly fine." After Patricia left, Rosemary stood in the center of the room, unsure what to do next. She needed to get out of this dress, but the buttons ran down her entire back. She struggled with them for several minutes before giving up and reaching for her phone to call for help. A soft knock stopped her, the first crack in the. Rosemary woke to sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to close the curtains on. For a confused moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then it came back, the wedding, the manor, Theo's unexpected kindness. She showered in the marble bathroom, marveling at water pressure that actually worked and towels that felt like clouds. The closet held everything she needed, including casual clothes that actually fit her. Someone had paid attention to details. She found her way downstairs, following the smell of coffee to a sunroom overlooking the gardens. The rain had stopped, leaving everything green and glistening. "Good morning." Theo was already there, reading something on his tablet. He looked up as she entered. "How did you sleep?" "Better than expected." She poured herself coffee from the carafe on the table. "Thank you for the clothes. Everything fits perfectly. Patricia is very good at her job." He set aside his tablet. "I thought after breakfast, if you're interested, I could show you around the property. There's something I think you'll like. The hidden studio." After fresh fruit and pastries that tasted homemade, Theo led her through the house to a wing she hadn't seen yet. He stopped at a set of double doors. "This was my father's study," he said. "He died 5 years ago. My mother wanted to turn it into another formal sitting room, but I had a different idea." He opened the doors. Rosemary gasped. The room had been transformed into an artist's dream. Tall windows let in northern light. Easels stood waiting. Shelves held paints, brushes, canvases, everything she could possibly need. In one corner, a pottery wheel sat next to a kiln. "You did this?" she asked, walking into the space like it might disappear if she moved too fast. "I had it done this week," Theo admitted. "After I learned you'd given up teaching art because Warren said it was a waste of time. I thought maybe you'd like to start again." She turned to look at him, this stranger who'd somehow seen a part of her that even she'd forgotten. "Why would you do this?" "Because everyone should have something that's theirs," he said simply. "Something no one can take away or control. This is yours. No strings attached. Stories between brush strokes." Over the following days, Rosemary found herself spending hours in the studio. At first, she just organized supplies, reacquainting herself with the weight of brushes, the smell of oil paints. Then she started sketching. Small things at first, a vase by the window, the gardens outside. Theo would knock softly before entering, always giving her the choice to send him away. But she found herself wanting the company. He'd bring tea and sit in the reading chair, working on his laptop while she painted. The silence between them was comfortable. One afternoon, he set aside his work and picked up a brush. "Would you teach me?" "You want to paint?" "I want to understand what you see when you look at the world," he said. "You get this expression when you're working, like everything else disappears. I'd like to know what that feels like." So she taught him about color theory, about seeing light and shadow, about letting go of perfection. He was terrible at first, his strokes too controlled, too careful. But he laughed at his own mistakes, and something about his willingness to be bad at something made her trust him more. The day everything changed. 2 weeks into their marriage, Seattle's famous rain returned with a vengeance. Thunder rolled across the sound, and lightning lit up the studio windows. Rosemary was working on a seascape, trying to capture the wildness of the storm. Theo came in, shaking rain from his hair. "Got caught between the garage and the house," he explained. "Patricia says the power might go out." "There's towels in the bathroom," Rosemary said, not looking up from her canvas. She heard him moving around, heard the bathroom door close. When he came back out, she'd switched to a smaller brush for detail work. She was so focused she didn't notice him come up beside her until he spoke. "That's beautiful." The first crack in the wall. "Rosemary?" Theo's voice came through the door. "I realized you might need help with the dress." Patricia stepped away, "But I can call her back if you'd prefer." She opened the door a few inches. He'd changed into dark pants and a simple gray sweater, looking less like a corporate heir and more like an actual person. "I can wait in the hall," he offered. "Just tell me when you're ready, and I'll get the buttons." It was the kindness in his voice that made her open the door wider. "Okay." She turned her back to him, moving her hair over one shoulder. His fingers were careful on the small buttons, working from top to bottom without commentary. She could feel the moment he reached the middle of her back, where the fabric of her slip didn't quite cover everything. His hands paused. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, pulling away and clutching the dress to her chest. "I should have warned you." "Warn me about what?" His voice was quiet. She turned to face him, seeing his expression. He wasn't disgusted or angry. He looked sad. "Who hurt you?" Theo asked. The question was so direct, so gentle, that tears sprang to Rosemary's eyes before she could stop them. "It doesn't matter now," she managed to say. "It matters to me." He took a small step closer, then stopped, clearly not wanting to crowd her. "Rosemary, I need you to know something. This marriage might have started as a business arrangement, but I meant the vows I spoke today. In sickness and health. For better or worse. I will never hurt you. And I won't let anyone else hurt you either." She wanted to believe him. But she'd heard promises before, from her uncle, who'd sworn to take care of her after her parents died. From teachers who'd said they'd help but never asked the right questions. From friends who'd disappeared when things got complicated. "Why?" she whispered. "You don't even know me." Theo ran a hand through his hair, messing up the perfect styling. "Because I know what it's like to be controlled by someone who's supposed to care about you. My mother, she had her own ways of making sure I understood my place. No bruises, nothing anyone could see, but the damage was real." He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw past the careful businessman exterior to something raw underneath. "We're both here because other people decided our lives for us," he said. "But maybe we can decide what happens next. Together." In that moment, standing in a wedding dress held together by her hands, talking to a man who was legally her husband but still a stranger, Rosemary felt something shift. Not trust, not yet. But the possibility of it. "I'd like that," she said softly. Theo smiled, the first genuine smile she'd seen from him. "Get some rest. Tomorrow, I'll show you the art studio. Patricia mentioned you used to teach art. You looked into my background?" "I wanted to know who I was marrying," he admitted. "Not just the file Warren provided. The real you." After he left, Rosemary finished undressing and climbed into the enormous bed. Outside, the rain continued to fall, but inside, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. 1 month into their marriage, a heavy envelope arrived at Ashford Manor. Theo brought it to the studio where Rosemary was working on a series of paintings exploring light and shadow. "It's from the Northwest Medical Alliance," he said, his expression grim. "Annual fundraising dinner. My family donates significantly, so attendance is expected." Rosemary set down her brush, her stomach dropping. "Warren sits on their board." "I know." Theo came to stand beside her. "We don't have to go. I can send our regrets." But Rosemary thought about the past month, about the woman she'd been slowly becoming in the safety of this house, in the freedom of the studio, in the growing friendship with the man she'd married. She thought about the walls she'd built to survive and how they'd started to come down. "No," she said, surprising herself. "We should go. I can't hide forever." Preparation. The week before the dinner, Rosemary found herself increasingly anxious. She'd wake from nightmares where Warren's voice echoed through empty halls. During the day, she'd lose focus on her painting, her brush hovering over canvas as her mind spiraled. Theo noticed. He always noticed. "Talk to me," he said one evening, finding her standing at the studio window long after sunset. "What if I freeze?" The words came out in a rush. "What if I see him and I become that scared girl again? What if I prove that nothing's really changed?" "Then I'll be right there," Theo said firmly. "You won't face him alone." "And Rosemary? You're not that scared girl anymore. You haven't been for a while." "How can you be sure?" "Because that girl couldn't have told me her story. She couldn't have started painting again. She couldn't have laughed at my terrible attempts at art or argued with me about whether Monet or Manet was better." "Monet is obviously better," she interrupted, a small smile breaking through. "See? That's not a scared girl. That's a woman finding her voice again." The night arrives. The dinner was held at Seattle's most prestigious hotel, a waterfront property with a ballroom that sparkled like something from a movie. Rosemary wore a midnight blue dress with long sleeves and a high back, chosen specifically to cover her scars. But tonight, the coverage felt less like hiding and more like choosing what she wanted to share. Theo offered his arm as they entered. "Ready?" "No," she admitted. "But let's go anyway." The ballroom was filled with Seattle's medical and pharmaceutical elite. Rosemary stayed close to Theo as they navigated greetings and small talk. He was good at this, she realized, the social performance. But she could feel the tension in his arm, the way his eyes constantly scanned the room. He was looking for Warren too. The confrontation. They'd made it almost an hour before it happened. Rosemary was talking with Patricia's daughter, who worked in hospital administration, when she felt it. That prickling awareness that meant he was watching. She turned. Warren Pierce stood near the bar, impeccable in his tuxedo, silver hair perfect, smile practiced. He looked like someone's kind uncle, not the monster she knew him to be. Their eyes met across the room. He raised his glass in a mock toast. "That's him," she whispered to Theo. She felt Theo's hand move to the small of her back, steady and warm. "Stay with me." She jumped, her hand jerking. The brush dragged across the canvas, leaving an unintended streak of white through the dark water. "I'm sorry," Theo said immediately, stepping back. "I didn't mean to startle you." "It's okay, She was reaching to put down the brush when her sleeve caught on the edge of the easel. The fabric pulled up, exposing the inside of her forearm. Time seemed to slow down. She saw Theo's eyes move to her arm, to the thin white lines that crisscrossed her skin. Lines she usually kept carefully hidden. "I should go," she said quickly, trying to pull the sleeve down. "Rosemary, wait." His voice was gentle but firm. "Please don't run from me. The truth comes out." She stood there, frozen, while he moved slowly to face her. He didn't try to touch her, but he didn't look away either. "Your uncle," he said. It wasn't a question. She nodded, tears already starting to fall. "He said I was ungrateful. Said I owed him everything after my parents died. When I didn't meet his expectations, he'd..." She couldn't finish the sentence. "When did it start?" "I was 12 the first time. He was careful at first, places no one would see. By the time I was in high school, I'd learned to stay out of his way. But sometimes that wasn't enough." Theo's jaw clenched, his hands forming fists at his sides. But when he spoke, his voice was controlled. "Does he still have access to you?" "No. The marriage contract included a clause that all communication goes through lawyers now. That was the only term I insisted on." "Good." He took a breath, and she could see him fighting to stay calm. "I want you to know something. Warren Pierce will never touch you again. I will make absolutely certain of that. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. He met her eyes. My family might have made their fortune in pharmaceuticals, but we have resources. Connections. If Warren so much as looks at you wrong, he'll find his business licenses under review, his taxes audited, every skeleton in his closet dragged into daylight. I will protect you, Rosemary. That's not a hollow promise. A different kind of strength. She wanted to believe him, but the fear was so ingrained. What if he won't? Theo's voice was absolute. And you want to know why? Because you're not alone anymore. You're not a scared kid with nowhere to go. You're Rosemary Ashford, and you have the full weight of my family's name and resources behind you. Something in the way he said her new name made it feel real for the first time. My mother, Theo continued, his voice softening, used to tell me I was weak. That emotions were a liability. She'd withhold affection, pit me against my siblings, make me doubt every decision I made. By the time I was old enough to see what she was doing, the damage was done. I built walls to survive. And now? Rosemary asked. Now I understand that surviving isn't the same as living. He gestured to the studio around them. You're teaching me that. Every time you pick up a brush, every time you create something beautiful from nothing, you're showing me what strength really looks like. The thunder cracked outside, and the lights flickered. In the dimness, Rosemary made a decision. Would you sit with me, she asked. While the storm passes? They sat together on the floor, backs against the wall, watching rain stream down the windows. And for the first time since she was 9 years old, Rosemary told someone the whole truth. About her parents' accident, about Warren's transformation from concerned guardian to cruel controller, about the years of walking on eggshells, about the scars visible and invisible. Theo listened to everything, never interrupting, never judging. When she finished, he did something unexpected. He shared his own scars, the ones that didn't show on skin but ran just as deep. As the storm raged outside, two people who'd been strangers weeks ago found connection in shared pain and the fragile hope of healing. Warren made his way over, his smile never faltering. Rosemary. How lovely to see you. And this must be your new husband. Theodore Ashford, I presume. Warren Pierce. I'm the girl's uncle. I know who you are. Theo's voice was ice. And she's not a girl. She's my wife. Of course, of course. Warren turned his attention to Rosemary. You look well, dear. Marriage agrees with you. Rosemary felt the old fear trying to claw its way up her throat. But then she felt Theo's hand on her back, Patricia's daughter standing supportively at her side, and realized something had changed. She wasn't alone. She wasn't powerless. I am well, she said, her voice surprisingly steady. Better than I've been in years, actually. Something flickered in Warren's eyes. I'm glad to hear it. We should have lunch sometime, catch up properly. Family is so important, don't you think? No. The word came out clear and firm. Rosemary saw Warren's smile falter. I'm sorry, he said. No, she repeated, stronger now. We won't be having lunch. We won't be catching up. The only contact between us will be through lawyers, as stipulated in my marriage contract. Now, Rosemary, there's no need to be dramatic. There's every need. Theo stepped forward slightly, his presence a wall between them. Let me be very clear, Mr. Pierce. My wife has made her wishes known. You will respect them. Any attempt to contact her outside legal channels will be considered harassment. Warren's facade cracked, his eyes hardening. You can't dictate who I speak to. Actually, I can. See, I've spent the last month having some very interesting conversations with people at the IRS, the State Medical Board, and several of your former business partners. Theo's smile was nothing like Warren's practiced charm. It was the smile of someone who knew exactly where the bodies were buried. Would you like to discuss your creative accounting practices? Or perhaps the harassment complaints from your staff that were quietly settled? The color drained from Warren's face. You have no right. I have every right to protect my wife, Theo said quietly. And make no mistake, I will use every resource at my disposal to do so. You'll leave her alone. You'll stay out of her life. And if I ever hear that you've caused her even a moment of distress, I will make it my personal mission to ensure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. Finding freedom. Rosemary watched Warren's expression cycle through rage, fear, and finally calculation. He was a bully, and bullies understood power. He'd lost his, and he knew it. This isn't over, Warren said, but his voice lacked conviction. Yes, Rosemary said, finding her voice again. It is. I'm not afraid of you anymore, Warren. And that must terrify you, because fear was the only thing you ever had over me. Warren opened his mouth, closed it, then turned and walked away without another word. Rosemary felt her legs go weak. Immediately, Theo's arm was around her waist, supporting her. I need air, she managed to say. He guided her out to the terrace overlooking Elliott Bay. The night air was cool and salty, and Rosemary gulped it down like she'd been drowning. You did it, Theo said softly. You stood up to him. We did it, she corrected. I couldn't have done it alone. You're stronger than you think. Maybe. She turned to face him. But I'm glad I don't have to be strong alone anymore. They stood there on the terrace, Seattle's lights reflected in the water below, and Rosemary realized something profound. This marriage that had started as a business transaction, a way out of one prison, had become something real. Somewhere between coffee conversations and painting lessons, between shared stories and quiet support, they'd become partners. Thank you, she said. For all of it. The studio, the protection, the patience. For seeing me. Theo reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Thank you for letting me in. For trusting me. For teaching me that walls aren't the only way to be safe. 6 months later. The studio had become the heart of the house. Canvases covered the walls now, a collection of Rosemary's work and Theo's improving attempts. They'd started painting together, creating collaborative pieces that blended their different styles into something neither could have made alone. On a Saturday afternoon in early spring, they stood side by side at their easels, working on their latest project. Outside, the gardens were in bloom. Patricia had just brought up coffee and Patricia's daughter had joined them to learn watercolors. You're getting better at this, Rosemary told Theo, watching him work on capturing the way light hit the sound. I have a good teacher. He glanced over at her canvas, where she was painting something abstract, all movement and emotion. What are you calling that one? I'm thinking breaking free, she said. Or maybe safe harbor. I haven't decided yet. Both work. He set down his brush and moved behind her, wrapping his arms gently around her waist. She leaned back into him, no longer flinching at unexpected touch, no longer afraid. I got a call from a gallery downtown, she said. They want to show my work. Have an opening. That's amazing. Are you going to do it? I think so. It's terrifying, but the good kind of terrifying, you know? I do. He pressed a kiss to her temple. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. She turned in his arms. We've come a long way from two strangers in a cathedral. We have. He smiled, and it reached his eyes now, genuine and warm. Ready for the rest of it? The rest of what? This. Us. Building something real from a contract marriage. Painting our way through life. All of it. Rosemary looked around the studio, at the evidence of healing and creativity, at the man who'd become her partner in every sense of the word. Outside, Seattle's rain had started again, but inside, everything felt warm. "Yes," she said, kissing him softly. "I'm ready." And she was. Ready for late-night conversations and morning coffee. Ready for the hard days and the good ones. Ready to keep creating, keep healing, keep growing. Ready to be seen and known and loved, scars and all. The marriage might have started as an arrangement, but it had become a choice. Every day, they chose each other. Every day, they painted something new on the canvas of their shared life.